But to start this story, we have to go back a year. So it was my junior year, and it was the morning time. You know, before you go to your classes, you're just chilling, hanging out with your friends. You can go get coffee and shit. So my best friend Taylor, we went and got coffee, and then they have like this little lab that has computers in it that you can just like go on and mess around in. And like she had a project she had to do before like class that day, so we were in there, and I had my coffee that I just bought next to me. And so there's like no teachers that own this classroom, right? So I'm just hanging out in the chair. I'm not even on a computer. My coffee's like on the table, but like not next to a computer. It was like pretty far away. And so this teacher comes in and she's like, "You girls need to throw out your coffees." And everyone in the entire school used to call her Miss Gag on me because her name was like super close to that. So that's just what I'm going to call her for the sake of this video, because I'm not trying to get in trouble or anything. So yeah, Miss Gag on me comes in, and mind you, she was not even my teacher. I had her like a year before that, and I never had her for the next like 2 years. So I didn't even have her at this time as a teacher. I had her the year before. And so she comes in and she's like, "You girls need to throw out your coffees." And we're like, no, we just bought these. And she was like, "You need to throw it out right now." So Taylor threw hers out because she had to work on a project. And I was like, "I'm not throwing mine out. I just bought it." Because it was like $3 at school. So I was like, "I'm not fucking throwing it out. I literally just bought it." And she's like, "You need to throw it out or you need to get out of here." And I was like, I used to be a badass kid in school. Like, I was not good. I used to talk back to teachers all the time. So I was like, "I'm not throwing out my coffee." I was like, "You're not even the teacher in this room. Why don't you just leave?" And she kept bitching at me, saying like, "You need to throw it out. Those are the rules. You're not allowed to have coffee in here." And I was like, "Look, it's on the ground, away from computers." Like, I literally got up, moved it like 10 feet away on the ground where nobody was. And I just like put it there. And I was like, "It's fine. It's not even near computers or cords or anything. Nobody's going to spill it because nobody's by there." I was like, "I'm not throwing it out. I just paid money for it. Are you going to reimburse me my money for my coffee?" "No, you're not. So I'm not fucking throwing it out." And then she just kept bitching. And she was like, "You need to leave then." And I was like, "Fine, you're a bitch." And so that's where all the trouble started. That first time I called her a bitch. And then she never liked me after that. Literally ever. So she went to the principal. I had to go down to the principal. I got in trouble for that. I got like in-school suspension, I'm pretty sure. And so, look at this hair. It's crazy. So, yeah, that was a whole big thing. And I hated her after that. Like, you got me in trouble because my coffee was on the floor next to nothing and it wasn't going to hurt anything. But just because you're having a shitty morning, you gotta be a bitch and come in and be like, nah, throw this out, throw that out, just to like act like you have some sort of power in this school that nobody likes you. So then, after she got me in trouble for that, I didn't have her as a teacher. Like, I wasn't allowed back in that room. That was one of my punishments. I wasn't allowed back in there forever. Or maybe it was just for that year, I don't remember. But fast forward to the last week of my senior year, I am failing a bunch of classes because I never went to school. I always skipped. So I was failing a bunch of classes, and English was one of them. And I was like hustling, just trying to get all my shit in just to get a 65 so that I could pass. And yeah, so I was working on that, and we were in English class that day. And like the English teacher that I got, we had an English teacher for like the first half to 3/4 of a year, and then she ended up giving birth because she was like super pregnant. We got a substitute. And yeah, the substitute was mad chill. I loved her. She was super nice. She was only like 5 to 10 years older than us, so like she was still pretty young. And so we're all working on English projects, and there's like a cart of laptops that she brought in, but all like the ones that actually worked were all taken, and so were the computers in that. Like there was only like 2 computers in our classroom, like desktops, the big square ones. So then she was like, okay, Tina, you have to go to the English Resource Lab, which is like a room filled with a couple computers, but it's strictly for like if you're in English and you need a computer, you get sent there. So she sent me there. And I was sitting in my class, not in my class, but like in that classroom with the computers. I was sitting on a computer, 1. I was working on my project, 2. 3, I didn't have a coffee. I didn't have any drinks. I was literally just working on my project. So about 20 to 30 minutes goes by. It's pretty much like 20 minutes before class ends, and I'm working on my project really hard to get this shit done so that I could graduate. And out of nowhere, Miss Gag on me pops her head in to see who's in there, sees that I'm in there, and instantly she's a bitch. She's like, get out. And I was like, what? And she was like, you need to get out right now. And I was like, I have a pass. I held it up right in her face. I was like, I have a pass. I'm allowed to be here. I'm working on an English project. And by the way, I don't have any coffee this time. And she did not like that response. So she started flipping out on me, saying that I needed to get out. I was being disrespectful. I wasn't allowed in there. And I was like, yes, I am. I'm allowed to be in here. I have a pass to be in here. Why don't you mind your own fucking business for once and stop? I was like, I'm working on an English project, so I can get this done so I can pass this class. I was like, you're interrupting me from my education. Just being like a bitch, because she was being a bitch, so I had to be a bitch back, because it's just the way I was in high school. I was very confrontational. So then she marched me down to my English classroom so she could verify with the teacher that my pass was real, which was also taking time out of me writing my paper. And so then she was asking the teacher, she was like, is this allowed? Did you write this pass? And she was just like, just being a bitch. So then my teacher, who was like super nice and I really liked her, she was like the best substitute teacher ever. She was like, yeah, I wrote the pass. She's like, why? And she was like, she's not allowed to be in here. You should know that. And I was like, first off, I stepped in between like their conversation because they were just like facing each other and I was like over here. But I like stepped in and I was like, first off, I'm allowed to be in there. Second, I was working on my English project before you rudely interrupted me. And third, like, don't talk to her like that. She's one of your peers. She's an English teacher too. Like, there's no reason to give her an attitude because she sent me somewhere to do my work, which I'm doing. So then she just kept yammering off, like bitching and flipping out, saying that she was going to bring it to my principal and that she was going to tell him I was disobeying her again. And then she walks out in the hall and is like starting to stomp down there. I was like, why don't you just mind your own business, you fucking bitch? And I like yelled it down the hallway, and like she heard me, and then my English teacher heard me, and her jaw dropped because she was like, because she did not know I was like that, because I was never like that to the teachers that were nice to me. I wasn't. I was like a sweetheart. The teachers that were assholes to me that I did not like, yeah, I gave them mad shit, because why should I make your life easy? Ugh. Why should I make your life easy if you're making my life fucking harder when I already don't want to be at school? That's why I skip all the time. So then she heard me and she marched her ass down to the principal to go tattle on me because she was a bitch ass, and that's what she did. She always just tattled instead of just minding her own damn business. So then I got called into the principal and I had to go speak with him, and he was yelling that he was going to suspend me and that was the last week of school. Like, there was no suspending me. If I got suspended, I wasn't allowed to graduate because I wouldn't be able to turn all my shit in time. Because I didn't even know half the shit I had to turn in. So, yeah, he was bitching that he was going to suspend me for a week and then I wouldn't be able to graduate. I would have to go to summer school and graduate. after my class, which means I couldn't walk on stage or any of that shit. And I was like, what the fuck? All because I was in an English room working, like literally working, doing my work. And she barged in and started flipping the fuck out on me for no reason. So then after that, my mom called because I called my mom and I was like, I'm not going to be allowed to graduate unless you talk to him and get him to not suspend me. So, like, just get him to give me in-school suspension or something. So my mom called and she talked to him and he was like, I guess she told him, like, do you really want to be stuck with her for another year? And he was like, no, I don't. Because I had a bad reputation at school for just being an asshole to teachers that were an asshole to me. And, yeah, cursing them out mainly. But only when they deserved it. Like, he told me I had to apologize in order to get in-school suspension for 3 days. So I was like, fine, I'll apologize, even though I don't want to, but I'll apologize, even though she bugged me, and if she minded her own business, I would have gotten my, English paper done, but it's cool. I'll apologize, because I'm in the wrong here. So then my principal, walked me down to her class so that I could apologize in front of him too, so that he could hear my apology. And I said, Miss Gagami, I am sorry that I called you a bitch. And oh yeah, I flipped her off too. I was like, I'm sorry that I called you a bitch and that I flipped you off. And I'm sorry I was rude, but I do think you could have handled the situation differently. And that sentence right there, which was very appropriate and it was very nice the way I said it. I didn't say it with an attitude or anything. But that sentence right there, that, but you could have handled things differently because she could have, that set her the fuck off because it wasn't an appropriate apology. So she turned around, she goes, I don't accept it. And she storms off with me and my principal standing right there, just left in the dust as she trotted away. So he starts flipping out on me and he's like, Tina, why couldn't you just apologize? Why couldn't you just apologize normally? And I was like, I did. I just said I thought she could handle it differently because I thought she could have. So he didn't like my apology. Neither did she. So then he was like, that's it. You're suspended. And he was being a dick too. So I was like, fuck. So I called my mom back and I was like, apparently my apology wasn't good enough, even though I was nice and sincere. Not really, but like the second part where I said she could have, gone about it a little differently, because she could have been like, hey, Tina, what are you doing here? Are you supposed to be here? Let me see your pass, even though it's none of her damn business. And I would have showed it to her and she could have been like, oh, okay, are you working on a project? And I would have been like, yeah, I am, and I don't have any drinks with me. And then she could have just went on her mosey little way. But no, she had to be a bitch. So then I was a bitch back. And she didn't even let me finish my fucking project, which is why I was there to begin with. And I wasn't even in her class, literally for 2 years. So she just comes in and bugs the fuck out of me for no damn reason. And that pissed me off. Because for once, when I was at school, I was actually working. Then I called my mom and I told her that they didn't accept my apology. And then she called my principal and it was this whole big thing. She had to like literally beg him to let me apologize again. Because at that point I was suspended and they were telling my parents to come pick me up. So I had to go back with my principal and re-apologize to her and be like, Miss Gag on me, I'm sorry I called you a bitch and I'm sorry I flipped you off. And that's how I said it, because like, you didn't accept my first apology. Now it's just like overkill. You're like just, trying to get every little ounce of power you can because kids shit on you all day, every day because you're a fucking cunt, really, because you're a fucking cunt and all you do is, you're a film class person where you literally watch movies and talk about them. Like, that's a joke of a class that all the bad kids take because, like, you just watch movies all the time. So obviously you're going to deal with little assholes. But anyway, I wasn't one. I was nice until she wasn't nice to me. Then I apologized and she accepted it like a bitch. She was like, I accept. Thank you for apologizing to me the right way. And I was like, yeah, no problem. And then, yeah, I got 3 days of in-school suspension, which actually helped me because I got to do all my work all day long and not have to deal with teachers just blah, 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 and trying to teach me shit that I didn't care about because it was literally the last week of school. So, got to graduate and got to walk on stage with all my friends and peers. And yeah, so that is the time I almost didn't graduate high school because of a bitch ass teacher. But honestly, I think if a teacher is being disrespectful to you, it's perfectly okay to be disrespectful to them, because where in the real world can you just be a piece of shit to somebody just because they're younger than you when you're supposed to be teaching them and be nice to them, but be a piece of shit to them just because you don't like your job. Like, maybe you should have picked a different job where you weren't teaching kids all the time if you're just going to be a miserable asshole. But anyway, that's the end of my story. Thank you guys for watching. And yeah, if you like it and want to hear more, subscribe to my channel. Thanks, guys. Have a good night.